but hours left to prevent our government from shutting down.
No one's shutting down the government except the president.
Stop trying to force a government shutdown.
It's time for the Senate to listen to the American people.
This Republican shutdown did not have to happen. But I want every American to understand why it did happen.
That's what this fight's all about. I talked to the president earlier tonight. I'm not going to negotiate.
The proof is watching the House Republicans because they've lost their minds.
Clearly, the Senate has demonstrated that it is not willing to engage in the legislative process.
This is their way of saying we are going to have a new order here.
They've shut down the government over an ideological crusade to deny affordable health insurance to millions of Americans. In other words, they demanded ransom just for doing their job.
Well, I would say to the president, this is not about me. And it's not about Republicans here in Congress. It's about fairness for the American people.
And welcome to Hannity. It is day one of the Obama-Reid government shutdown, and at this hour there appears to be no end in sight. Democrats are refusing to negotiate with any Republican, and so tonight we have assembled a live studio audience made up of pundits and pollsters from both sides of the aisle. We have financial experts and much more to weigh in on the latest developments in Washington. But before we bring them in, there is another story we need to tell you about. Today is also day one of the ObamaCare President Exchange disaster. That is his health care plan, in particular, now the health care system and the health insurance exchanges that the administration now has had 3 years to plan for this day, and they could not have launched it in a worse way. Now, our friends over at National Review Online have come up with a list of 100, quote, unintended consequences related to the legislation. Throughout the hour, check the bottom of your screen, sort of below me, and it will display what they've come up with, and you'll learn a lot about the health care law. Now let's turn things over to our studio audience. Day one Obamacare. Okay. Oh, Jamoo's happy. What a shock. All right. All right. Who thinks this is a good thing for the country? Hands up. All right. Joe Trippi. Shocker. Who thinks that after 3 years it is an embarrassment the way it was launched today with all the glitches? Joe Trippi.
What now?
Is it not an embarrassment? I mean,
no.
Every state had a glitch. You couldn't even get on this thing.
No. I mean, look, it's going to have glitches. No, there's been no launch of any new tech or anything that hasn't had glitches on the first day. It's going to do that. They have 6 months. People have 6 months. And by the way, it's only a small number of Americans, actually 30 million, that are going to be going to these exchanges. It's not everybody. 85% of people are not going to, who get health insurance already, will stay on their plans.
All right,
By the way, let's
see who blames.
What he said is not true.
Go ahead.
Because what's going to happen, you know this, is that employers that are providing health coverage that people like right now are going to drop their coverage, Joe, and they're going to dump people in these Obamacare.
85%, everybody.
Not all of them will.
180 million Americans are going to be dumped.
The president said if you like your health care plan, you get to keep it. And a lot of people aren't going to be dumped.
He said if you liked your health plan, you could keep it. Is that just another lie, or should he said 85% could keep it?
No. 15% don't. 30 million Americans don't have health insurance. They're the ones.
Okay.
They're the ones that are going to be going to the exchanges. And by the way, you're paying for all of them always right now.
If that was your health care on day one and you needed health care and didn't get it, is that a glitch?
This is about the Americans who are uninsured. And talking about companies, let's just give a round of applause to Walmart, who has embraced this law and moved 35,000 of their workers from part-time to full-time status. Because unlike Congress, who understands that Obamacare is actually going to ensure the uninsured.
Before we get into the health care law, and we're going to get back to this, I promise, both of you, and Jedediah, I know you want to weigh in. Here's what the Republicans did. First, they said they were going to defund. Then they said they were going to delay. They sent the bills over to the Senate. Then they were going to eliminate special exemptions. And then they said, let's go to conference. The president said, I shouldn't have to offer anything. Harry Reid won't talk to them. Does that make the Democrats responsible for this shutdown? Show of hands. How many say no? Doug Schoen, what? Well, if the Republicans offer to defund, delay, eliminate exemptions, and then go to conference, how is it not? They're funding the government in every other regard. How is it their fault?
It is their fault because the law is the law of the land. It was passed, and the way our system works is laws are put into place. You want to fight, you fight at the ballot box. Sean, the Democrats have basically won this fight despite the fact that Obamacare is unpopular. I'm here to say that with 2/3 of the American people unhappy with Obamacare, the shutdown is the only way the Democrats now have a 10% lead in the generic vote.
I keep hearing this. Hang on. I keep hearing this over and over. It's the law of the land. Peter Johnson, you're a lawyer.
Yes.
Now, don't we overturn bad laws all the time? And isn't there constitutional authority
all
for Congress?
the time? And the reason we have a government shutdown, and I'm sorry to say it, is because the President of the United States has forced a government shutdown. When a President of the United States, when the head of the United States Senate will not sit down with Republicans in this country and discuss the defects of one of the biggest pieces of legislation in our history and the impact that it's going to have, and say it's my way or the highway, it's my rule or I'll ruin you. That's wrong. That's un-American. And that's what we've been plunged
that
into.
That is to say that the Senate leader and the President would not be sitting down. The Senate has tried to compromise 18 times on the budget. The Senate has tried to compromise. And then the Republicans are saying, the House Republicans are saying, you won't sit down to compromise with us. Keeping the government open is their job.
I won't negotiate. I won't compromise.
Have you ever been at a negotiating table where one party comes and says, unless I get this, I'm going to burn the whole thing down? That's what
Nobody
the Tea Party folks have done.
That is hyperbole in the extreme.
And they are
I sit at negotiating tables every day with legislative branches and executive branches. This one man has said, I'm the executive, I'm a tyrant, and I don't have any room to negotiate. That is the president.
Can I ask you a question? Who's the party responsible for shutting down government?
I think it's Barack Obama.
The party that hates government. That's a very
That's not true. Let me tell you. Hang on, one at a time. I'm going to go to Tammy. One at a time. Because they offered to defund, then they said, all right, we'll delay. Then they said, we'll get rid of all the special exemptions. And then they said, all right, let's talk about it. And they won't even talk.
You know, here's what's fascinating. Everybody's talking about, and they note that, it's the law now. Barack Obama seems to think that it's Jell-O, because he has changed this so many times over the last year. Exemption after exemption, waiver after waiver, delay after delay, and suddenly it's the law of the land that's written in stone. What Americans, I think, are getting upset with is, I think, even the reflection of this debate, which is that they know already that their premiums have gone up. They know that they were lied to. They know it's not what they were told it would be, and it's only going to get worse. If you've been on the exchanges, it's one thing to go on the exchanges. You get that bronze health care plan, you suddenly notice a $5,000 deductible and a 30% responsibility for any hospitalization. That is, and these are the people who didn't have insurance. Who's got $5 grand? Who's got the $6 grand you'd need for the hospital? They're finding out it is not even doable, and that's how
they have been lied to. They have been lied to by the Republicans. Why do I say that? Because for 3 years in a row, healthcare costs in this country have gone down. That's never happened before. And the Republicans, Doug is absolutely right. The Republicans managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. With the majority of people opposed to Obamacare, they could have forced negotiation. The president was.
I have a question for you, though, Bernard. Let me ask you this,
but not at the expense of shutting down the government.
Let me ask you a question.
And by the way, they already took it to the Supreme Court and lost.
Wait a second. Didn't the president say that the average family was going to save $2,500 a year? Did he say that?
Yeah, he did.
Yes, he did.
All right. Now, we now have actuary studies that show in 46 states that the premiums for people that was supposed to save $2,500 are going up significantly. On average, as a $10,000.
Obamacare.
Excuse me. Let me finish. Can I finish my question? On average, a $10,000 swing. So a $10,000 swing. So I want to understand, from your point of view, does it matter to you that the president's promise is broken?
I think it matters that we ought to let this law take effect. We ought to optimize it. We ought to change it. We ought to improve it. 105 million Americans have already taken advantage of the law. Tens of millions are getting preventative care.
Not answering my
question. The cost of prescription drugs has gone down.
Eileen, go ahead.
First, healthcare costs have not decreased. The rate of growth has decreased, which is entirely different, number one. Number two, that's largely due to the recession. The CMS actuary has said that. The bulk of Obamacare hasn't taken effect yet, so to attribute slower healthcare cost growth to that just is untrue.
Just like saying the huge increases are when it hasn't been implemented or its fault. Healthcare was going to go up. Healthcare was going to go up. It goes up. The Obamacare has bent the cost curve down. And that is the first time.
Joe, if you and I had a difference, and
We don't have any difference.
No, we have lots.
Never.
No, but if we had a difference, wouldn't you and I go in a room and hash it out?
And
how does the president get away with saying what he said? The president's saying, I shouldn't have to offer anything.
Here's what's interesting about that.
Why wouldn't you?
The Senate passed a budget and the House passed a budget.
Go to conference?
It was the Republicans who did not. It was Boehner who did not send conferees for 4, 5, 6 months.
But now
that was Ted Cruz. So then at 11:55 last night, and only then does Boehner say, okay, maybe we ought to get
where
together.
the Senate didn't show.
And let me do one thing else. It's kind of out there to vote for repeal 41 times. Let's repeal Obamacare 41 times. Then say, here's a continuing resolution that kills Obamacare, but we're not the ones who shut down the government.
And we'll be back with our live studio audience in a few minutes.
This is the beginning of the login process. I'm creating an account, and it's pretty much like it would be for any other website. I keep getting this error page. It won't let me progress past it won't let me progress past verifying personal information. So I'm going to call the help number now and see what they have to say. I've been able to set up my account. I was in the process of verifying my identity, and I hit a roadblock on the website. I kept getting an error message. So I tried to initiate an online chat. That didn't go anywhere. So it just started ringing again, but I haven't reached a person yet. We're 15 minutes in now. I've probably spent almost 20 minutes on the phone now. We started about 35 minutes ago, so at this point I'm going to hang up and call it a day. If I were signing up for myself, this is where my patience would be exhausted.
Wow, you can't make this up. There you have it. That was an NBC anchor earlier today attempting to sign up for the new healthcare exchanges, but after 35 minutes she had to give up. We bring back our bipartisan studio audience for reaction. Jedediah, kind of speaks wonders, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We've been saying for how long, I can't tell you how many segments I've done, some with you, that this law is not ready for prime time, and now we're seeing that it actually isn't. And I have to debunk the point about Republicans not liking government. No, Republicans, many of them, not all of them, are trying to keep government within its constitutional limits. We have been fighting to keep this government open for days, and Democrats are fighting to uphold a law that the American people don't like. So the Republicans are standing with the will of the American majority and are somehow taking the heat of it, and people are saying we don't like government. We've been trying to fund the government in every possible way, battling Harry Reid. If he doesn't want to compromise, he won't compromise. And where was Barack Obama's compromise when he shoved this law down everyone's throat with no Republican support? Were the Democrats here calling for him to compromise then, or does the compromise only matter when Republicans bend to what Democrats want?
I think this is a great point, because you're saying that the president shoved this law down people's throat, but yet in 2012 he won by 5 million votes. So if the American people was so sure that what he was doing was so awful, they would have elected
Look
Mitt Romney.
At the polling on Obamacare.
Number two,
look at the polling.
This is the first day of the national exchange. I mean, you guys are acting like this has been
for months. More than half the country has opposed this law.
Well,
slow
down. There's going to be technical glitches. Come on, you guys are being unrealistic. I mean, you got to calm down just for a second. Give it a couple months. Well, give it a month.
Let's talk about the polling around Obamacare. So the polling on Obamacare does consistently say that huge numbers of Americans are unhappy with the law. 67% of independents in the most recent CNN poll said that they were. The problem is it worth the government shutdown? And even if Republicans have said, hey, look, we sent this bill and that bill and the other bill over to Harry Reid in the Senate, the question is at the end of a couple of weeks from now, if the government's not reopened, who's going to bear the brunt of the blame? And as a conservative, I am gravely concerned that Doug is right and that it will be Republicans. So what I'd love to see, there is so much conservative energy now around this, and I'd love to see that channeled into let's try to get Al Franken out of the Senate come next November. Let's try to get a Republican senator from Michigan. Let's focus this on winning elections instead.
Look, I think the big issue here is that President Obama has a problem telling the truth. When you go back to day one, he said you're going to be able to keep your insurance policy. Period. That's what he said, period. You're going to be able to keep your doctor, period. Sean, I've got 2,000 emails from my readers and my listeners telling me that they're losing their insurance policies, they're losing their doctors, and these new insurance policies are costing them more money. The president lied to the American people, period.
He misrepresented it. Jason.
I think one of the reasons Obama isn't negotiating is because he thinks he has a stronger hand. He's looking at polls that say, yes, Obamacare is very unpopular, but the government shutdown is more unpopular. Moreover, he's looking at polls that say the Republicans will get blamed more than the Democrats for the shutdown. In addition, Sean, what I think Obama sees is a split opposition, which I don't think is working to the advantage of the GOP. He sees a Ted Cruz faction, he sees a leadership faction at loggerheads right now, and he's using that to his advantage. He's saying, let them fight them out. I don't have to negotiate.
It's a fiction created by the
Go ahead, Matt.
In the short term, that may hurt the Republicans in a very short term, but in the longer term, you talk about the costs right now we have health care, how much they're going up. That's also taking into consideration that a 27-year-old healthy person is going to go sign up. Why would they sign up if they can get out of it for $95? Me at 27 years old, I was not signing up for health insurance.
They did a study, 27-year-olds, Wyoming, Tennessee, and one other state. Their premiums are going up anywhere between 265%.
If they make $50,000 a year, they can get out for
Emily is disagreeing.
Can I just throw something out there? Like, let's just say that for let's just throw this out there.
All right, go ahead.
That maybe the Republicans have been campaigning on this law failing for the last couple of years. Just throwing it out there. Maybe they have been. And they've done everything they possibly can to defund HHS, to not let the money go through, to really not let the law work as it was supposed to.
How is it possible?
What if people like it?
How is it possible?
What does that do to Republican credibility?
How is it
what if it goes into effect and they like it?
You work in this business and screw it up so bad. Only government can be capable of that.
This isn't all about politics and what Republicans have campaigned against. This is Obamacare is bad policy, and it's going to have negative impacts on the American people. That's what this is about. It's not about Republicans winning or Democrats losing.
But if you
insurance actuaries are
now you can. I think it's
going to increase.
All right, Jason, last one.
I was just going to say, what to me should be even more embarrassing than the glitches, Sean, is the amount of ignorance among the young people. These man-on-the-street interviews that the press has been doing with the people that Obama needs to make the math work on this. The people, the millennials and those folks have no idea. After 3 years, they have not been properly educated on what they're supposed to do today.
Here's the next big problem. The last interview you did with the representative said he wanted everybody to get health care. There is a difference, and people have to realize that having health insurance is not getting health care. And when you go to the California Exchange, there's a big warning, like on a pack of cigarettes. If you actually utilize health care, these numbers will go up drastically. There's an actual warning. So remember, you might have a piece of paper that says you have health insurance. Good luck finding a doctor and good luck getting health care.
We'll get to you when we get back. You're first, I promise. All right, when we come back, we'll have more with our studio audience right after the break. And welcome back to Hannity. It was a sight to be remembered this morning in Washington, and it all happened because the World War II memorial was barricaded and closed off to visitors as a result of the Obama-Reid government shutdown. Now, Fox News Radio's Todd Starnes obtained this exclusive video that you'll only see right here on Hannity. Now, Republican lawmakers stood with about 91 elderly veterans who had arrived to pay their respects, only to see their open-air memorial roped off with yellow tape. After writing to President Obama about the situation before the trip, and after urging park officials to open the memorial, Congressman Steve Palazzo, along with Louis Gohmert and 7 other lawmakers, decided to honor the veterans, defying the law. They took a unanimous voice vote and decided to break through those barricades. Needless to say, cheers erupted from the veterans, their families, as they entered the site. And we bring back our studio audience for reaction. Great job, Todd Starnes. That was awesome. Yeah, really.
Capitol Hill and demand the government get reopened. That's exactly what the problem is. And if you want to know why the government website shut down, because so many people, there's so much
demand. Stop it.
Stop it. Demand for health care.
Steve Moore. Let me go to Steve. Go ahead.
I wanted to respond to what you're saying, what the congressman said about, we're going to provide 30 million people with health care because that's what they really want. What the American people want right now is jobs, jobs. And there's 20 million people that don't have a full-time job. I can't tell you how many businessmen and women I talk to across the country, Sean, who say Obamacare is their single biggest detriment to creating jobs. A lot of businesses, you know what a 49er is. It's a business that's stopping hiring at 49 workers. It's happening all over this great country of ours. So we are destroying jobs. But, there's good news. Joe Trippi and I agree.
Yeah.
If we get rid of that tax on the medical devices, we can put 250,000 more Americans to work. So let's start with that. Right?
Let me go to Peter Johnson on this. Then I'll go to you, Doug, I promise. Yeah. Peter, you look at all these companies that are saying you can only work 28 hours. That's not going to help job creation in this country. That's one of the biggest impacts that's happening.
No. And listen, the statistics show that ObamaCare will be a job killer. ObamaCare, we talked about the device tax. That's going to be a terrible burden in this country. The people sitting at home, right now at home, in their beds, on the couch, in their easy chair, they have to understand that they live in a country now where a president says to the Republican leadership in this country, I will not speak to you. I will not speak to you under any circumstances, even under penalty of shutting this government down. That is the dysfunction. That's the dysfunction we're demonstrating to the world.
Peter, he'll talk to Iran.
He'll talk to
Russia and Syria.
He'll talk to every enemy in the world. But when it comes to talking to a brother or sister Republican, he will not talk. And that's why we're in the position.
Doug Schoen, why are you complaining about that?
Oh, I'm not complaining about the problem with President Obama and negotiating. I'm complaining about everybody. I don't like Obamacare, and I don't like Republicans putting a gun to the Congress and the president's head. But, Sean, let me finish.
Let me stop you. So, wait a minute. So saying that the laws, the extra benefits that Congress gets, and saying that big business, that individuals should get the same exception, that's a gun? You're going to use that analogy? That's a gun?
Shutting the government down is.
Really?
If we took the debt ceiling and we took the government shutdown, the Republicans said, let's put everything on the table and talk. And forget intransigence, but put it all on the table. And Steve Moore, where is the pro-growth agenda from the Republican Party? Doesn't exist. It's all negative.
Obamacare.
The Republican Party has been talking about pro-free market solutions to health care for months. No one is trying to take anyone's health care away. They have been out there talking about policies, purchasing insurance across state lines, pro-competition, broadening options, lowering costs. The fact that no one wanted to listen to that is not the problem. But Obamacare is the opposite.
For a way out.
Kristen, in the back, go ahead. Yeah.
So what surprised me the most about the president's actions on this is that this is an opportunity where the poll numbers do look really grisly for Republicans.
Correct.
And so by coming out and saying, I'm not even going to talk to congressional Republicans, that's what Republicans are banking on, that is going to change those numbers. I'm not optimistic that it will, but it has surprised me.
Numbers actually are not, they're not as bad as they were in 95, and two polls have it only a 3-point difference. Meaning they're blaming the president and the Republicans equally.
Quinnipiac was 10 today, Sean.
But if the Republicans keep passing bill after bill to fund the government, how do you blame them?
You blame them simply because they are not willing to do a clean resolution. The American people want the government open, period. Then you can fight about Obamacare.
Don't want Obamacare, and there's no other.
So fight about that rather than the government. That's where you make political points.
And we'll continue. Straight ahead. And welcome back to Hannity. Now, throughout the hour, we've been scrolling through several unintended consequences of Obamacare, courtesy of National Review Online. We bring back our live studio audience for some closing thoughts. Jimbo.
Sean, I just have to say it saddens me. The level
you say that with a smile on you. You look so sad.
The level of selfishness on this panel. Every single one of us has already benefited from Obamacare. The fact that we have no lifetime caps anymore. Insurance companies can't kick us off. We no longer have to deal with pre-existing conditions. Wait a second, let me finish. All of these benefits that we have benefited from, people who have health insurance, now that the exchanges have kicked in, this is about the Americans who were uninsured, and they finally have access to new, easy, and secure affordable health care.
What's really selfish, what's really arrogant, is a president of the United States who thinks he no longer has to negotiate. There is a legislative branch. My plan is Dr. Price's plan from Georgia.
Wait a
minute, it's my turn. You were calling names. I'm trying to have a conversation. Let me try.
What's your plan?
I have plans. I can fix it a lot faster than you can. What is sad is a president who will not negotiate, a president who doesn't think that a legislative branch matters, and a president who has no real care for the people in this country who are going to be a part of this train wreck and this disaster that Obamacare is.
Tammy.
My heart breaks for those supporters of Obama who thought that this was going to be easy health care. You will have a piece of paper that says you've got health insurance. Good luck finding a doctor.
All right, we haven't got you two guys in the front here. Matt, go ahead. Wait.
I love where you're coming from here, but Why should I be so happy about this? Because my health insurance, I'll tell you this, is going to go up. As my country grows and I get to 50 employees, I have to stop growing my company.
The country we live in, we support.
I should be happy because of that. I'm paying more money.
Sean, let me offer a way out. There is one thing is very clear. I think we can all agree, Tammy, that there is plenty of blame to go around. There's a very clear, simple solution to this. What is that? Boehner should put up a clean CR. It would pass. Everybody knows it. Let me finish. Let me finish, please. And in consideration for that, the Senate should agree to vote on the repeal of the medical excise tax, which would pass, and then we can move on.
And everything else. All right, Jason.
That is the way out. That's what the government. That's what the American people says he won't.
Yeah, Jason.
Absolutely right. Republicans don't have the votes in the Senate. They need to pick battles they can win. I think they could win on the medical device tax. I think they could win on the Vitter amendment, which says make the political class play by the same rules. Pick the fights you can win.
Todd? Sean, have we figured out if President Obama's caddy is a non-essential government employee? Have we figured that out?
That's a good point. I'm not really sure. Brian, go ahead.
The way the resolution shows,
it will work if the Republicans only seize victory from the jaws of defeat.
This is not about polls. This is about principle and this is about leadership. We have a president who leads us out of this and stops the blame game. Stop the big game.
The Republican Party is at risk of becoming a regional party. We've been seeing this trend. And if the Republican Party continues to fight fights they can't win.
It's not regional, and we're going to...
Thank you all. Give yourselves a big hand. That's all the time we have left. Brett is next. See you back here tomorrow night.